My girlfriend erased my late daughter's voice from my phone, and when I discovered what she'd done, something inside me went completely silent. Not angry, not broken, just cold and clear, like ice forming over deep water. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. I was standing in our kitchen in Rockford Bay, holding my phone, staring at the empty folder where Emma's recording used to be. 7 seconds, that's all it was. 7 seconds of my 4-year-old daughter saying, "I love you, Daddy," before bed on a night 3 years ago. The last night before the accident that took her and my wife Sarah both. "Ashley," I said quietly. She looked up from her coffee, already defensive before I'd even asked the question. Her jaw was set, her eyes hard. "What? Where's the recording?" "What recording?" But she knew. I could see it in the way she wouldn't meet my eyes. "You know exactly what recording." She set her mug down too hard. Coffee slopped over the rim onto the counter. "Nick, we talked about this. You need to move forward. That recording was keeping you stuck in the past. You were listening to it every night. It wasn't healthy." My hands went numb. The phone felt weightless and impossibly heavy at the same time. "You had no right." "I had every right. I'm your girlfriend. I live here too. I'm trying to build a future with you, and you're clinging to the past like some kind of ghost. How am I supposed to compete with a memory? How am I supposed to matter when you're still in love with someone who's gone?" I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up. Emma's voice had been on that phone for 3 years. Through 2 phone upgrades, through countless transfers and backups, through nights when I couldn't sleep and needed to remember what her voice sounded like. Ashley knew what that recording meant. Everyone in this town knew what I'd lost that October night when a drunk driver crossed the median on Route 1. "You had no right," I repeated, and my voice came out flat and empty. "I had every right," she shot back. "I'm trying to help you heal. You can't move on if you're constantly looking backward." I turned and walked out of the kitchen, down the hallway with its peeling wallpaper and water-stained ceiling, into our bedroom. I locked the door behind me and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. Then I remembered something. 2 years ago, after my second phone stopped working, Travis had helped me set up cloud backups for everything important. I'd barely thought about it since. My hands were shaking as I opened the cloud storage app. The little spinning wheel appeared, loading. Then the folder structure materialized. Documents, photos, audio. I tapped audio. There it was. Emma Bedtime Final.mp3. I pressed play with a thumb that wouldn't stop trembling. "I love you, Daddy." Her voice. Small and sleepy and absolutely perfect. The slight lisp on the L. The way she yawned halfway through. Love. Everything. I played it 3 more times. Then I saved it to my phone in 5 different places. Downloaded it to my email. Sent it to myself on 3 different messaging apps. Made it untouchable, unerasable. Then I just sat there in the silence of our bedroom, and something fundamental shifted inside me. Not rage, though that was there too, buried deep. Not grief, though I'd been living with that for 3 years. Something colder. Something permanent and irreversible. Ashley had crossed a line I hadn't known existed until she stepped over it. She'd tried to erase my daughter. Had decided that Emma's voice was an inconvenience, an obstacle, something to be deleted so Ashley could have my full attention. If she could erase the last voice I loved, I could erase every illusion I'd ever had about her. I unlocked the door and walked back to the kitchen. Ashley was scrolling through her phone now, trying to look casual, pretending nothing had happened. She glanced up when I entered. "Nick, I really think we should talk about—" "I recovered it," I said. She stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "The recording. Cloud backup. You didn't erase anything except your chance of me ever trusting you again." Her face went through several colors. Pale, then red, then pale again. "You're being dramatic. I was trying to help you." "No," I said quietly. "You weren't. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. That's not fair. Isn't it?" I picked up my keys from the counter. "I'm going to work." "Nick, wait. Can we please just—" I walked out. Let the door close behind me. Got in my truck and drove to the garage where I worked as a mechanic. The morning air was cold and damp, typical for Rockford Bay in November. Fog rolling in from the harbor. The smell of salt water and rust and old fish. The garage was quiet when I arrived. Just me and the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead. I worked on a transmission rebuild for a '04 Ford and didn't let myself think about anything except bolts and fluid lines and the satisfying click of parts fitting together correctly. My boss, Ray, came by around 10. He was in his 60s, weathered and gray, with hands permanently stained black from 40 years of engine grease. "You okay, Nick?" "Fine." "You don't look fine." "I'm fine," I repeated, not looking up from the transmission pan. Ray nodded slowly. "Huh? All right. You need anything, you let me know." "Will do." He didn't believe me, but he didn't push. That was one thing I appreciated about Ray. He understood silence. I worked until 6, then drove home through streets slick with evening rain. When I walked into the apartment, Ashley was in the living room, curled up on the couch with her phone. She didn't look up. I went to the kitchen, made a sandwich, ate it standing at the counter. That night, lying in bed next to her, I started noticing things I'd been ignoring for months. Little things that added up. Ashley had changed. New clothes, expensive ones that didn't match her salary from the cosmetics store where she worked, shifts that ran late into the evening, past when Shine and Bloom usually closed, the way she tilted her phone away from me when texts came in, how she'd started using the phrase "I need space" too often for someone who claimed to want a future together. And then there was Lewis. We'd met him 4 months ago when we moved into this apartment on Harbor Street. He was the realtor who showed us the place. Lewis Brenner, owner of Brenner Realty, with his face on billboards all over town. "Your key to the Bay." He was tall, polished, confident in that specific way men are when they've never been seriously challenged by anything. Perfect teeth, perfect hair, expensive watch. He'd smiled too much during the showing. Touched Ashley's back when pointing out features in the kitchen. Guided her hand when she signed the lease paperwork, his fingers lingering on hers. Given her his personal cell number, in case any issues come up with the property. I'd noticed. I'd ignored it. That was the old Nick. The Nick who wanted things to work, who believed people were fundamentally decent, who thought if you just kept your head down and did the right thing, life would eventually be fair. That Nick was gone now. Over the next week, I watched Ashley carefully. Didn't ask questions, didn't confront. Just observed. Her phone lit up constantly. She angled it away, smiled at messages she wouldn't share, left the room to take calls, came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Then, 8 days after she deleted Emma's voice, I found the initials. Ashley left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. I didn't plan to look, but the screen lit up with a text preview, and I saw it. LB. Deposit tomorrow? Can't wait to see you. I stood there for a long moment, just staring at those words. Then I picked up the phone. No password. She'd stopped locking it around me months ago, probably because she thought I'd never look. I opened the message thread and scrolled up. Weeks of texts. Hundreds of them. You looked amazing yesterday. Can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Tell me when you're free. I'll clear my schedule. The timestamps told the story. Messages sent during her late inventory nights. During lunch breaks. At 2 a.m. while I slept beside her. I put the phone back exactly where I'd found it. Walked into the living room. Sat on the couch. Stared at the wall. Lewis Brenner. LB. The realtor with the perfect smile and wandering hands. Ashley came out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, humming something. Hey, what do you want for dinner? I was thinking maybe we could order from that Thai place you like. Whatever you want, I said. She studied me for a second, then shrugged. Okay, Thai it is. She didn't notice anything different. That was the problem. She'd stopped truly seeing me months ago. I'd become furniture. Background. The sad mechanic who couldn't move past the family he'd lost. The next morning, I drove past Brenner Realty on my way to work. There was Lewis's face on a billboard near the docks, larger than life. That same confident smile. I stared at it until the light turned green. At lunch, I called Travis. We'd been friends since high school, back when Rockford Bay was a place we were planning to escape from instead of a place we'd both ended up trapped in. He worked freelance for the local paper now, covering everything from town council meetings to fishing disputes. What's up? Travis answered. I need a favor. Shoot. What do you know about Lewis Brenner? Travis laughed. The realtor? Slick guy. Thinks he's God's gift to coastal Maine. Why? Just curious. There was a pause. Nick, you're a terrible liar. What's going on? I told him. Not everything. Just enough. Ashley and the deleted recording. The text from LB. The cologne and late nights and obvious lies. Travis was quiet for a long moment. Then, Jesus, Nick. I'm sorry. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, I said, but I'm done being the guy who takes it. Good, Travis said. That guy was getting boring anyway. You want me to dig into Brenner? Not yet. Just keep your ears open. You got it. That evening, Ashley said she had to work late. Inventory night at Shine and Bloom. She'd be home around 11. I nodded and watched her leave. Waited 30 minutes. Then I followed her. She didn't go to the cosmetics store. She drove straight to Harborview Suites, a mid-range hotel near the water. I parked 3 rows back and watched. 15 minutes later, Louis Brenner's silver Lexus pulled into the lot. He got out wearing slacks and a button-down, no tie. Walked into the lobby like he owned it. I sat there until midnight. Neither of them came out. My hands gripped the steering wheel hard enough to hurt. But I didn't move, didn't confront. Just watched and remembered and planned. At 12:30, I drove home and slept on the couch. Ashley came in around 7 the next morning, wearing yesterday's clothes, but trying to look fresh. She jumped when she saw me sitting there. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep? How was inventory?" "Long. Really long. We had a huge shipment to process." I nodded. "Must have been exhausting." She looked at me carefully, trying to read something in my face. "Are you okay?" "Fine," I said. "Just thinking." "About what?" "Nothing important." She hesitated, then went to take a shower. I heard the water running. Heard her humming that same tune from yesterday. Heard her entire life continuing as if nothing had changed, but everything had changed. That afternoon, while Ashley was at work, I searched her purse. Found what I was looking for in the inside pocket. A key card for Harborview Suites. Room 318. She'd kept it like a souvenir. I put it back carefully. Zipped the purse. Sat down at the kitchen table and just breathed. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed her to believe she was still in control, that I was still the passive, grieving Nick who would forgive anything. I needed her comfortable, careless, making mistakes. 3 days later, she made the biggest one. It was Thursday evening when Ashley came home early. I was in the garage attached to our building, working on my truck, changing the oil. I heard her car pull up, heard her footsteps, and then she was standing in the doorway, looking pale and shaking. "Nick," she said, "we need to talk." I wiped my hands on a rag slowly, deliberately. "Okay." We went upstairs to the apartment, sat at the kitchen table. She kept twisting her hands together, wouldn't look at me. The silence stretched out. "I'm pregnant," she finally said. I didn't react, just watched her, waited. "It might not be yours." The words hung there. I counted to 10 in my head, focused on staying calm, staying cold. "Whose is it?" Her voice cracked. "I don't know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." "Whose?" I repeated. "Louis." She was crying now. "Louis Brenner, the realtor. I've been seeing him. I'm so sorry." I stood up, walked to the sink, poured a glass of water, drank it slowly, set the glass down gently. "How long?" I asked. 3 months. 3 months. While I was grieving, while I was working 50-hour weeks at the garage, while I was trying to hold together the pieces of a life that had shattered 3 years ago. "Thank you," I said. She looked up, confused. "For what?" "For being honest. Now I know exactly who I'm dealing with." Her face twisted. "Nick, please. It was a mistake. I was confused. You've been so distant ever since Sarah and Emma. I needed someone who was present, who could see me, who wasn't drowning in the past." "So you deleted my daughter's voice and had an affair with a realtor," I said flatly. "Don't say it like that." "How should I say it?" I don't know, okay? I messed up. I know I messed up. But I'm trying to be honest now. I'm trying to do the right thing." I looked at her. Really looked at her. She was 28 years old with her whole life ahead of her, and she was crying because she'd gotten caught. Not because she was sorry, because she'd gotten caught. "Get out," I said quietly. "What?" "Get out. Pack your things. Go stay with Louis or your sister or whoever. But get out of my apartment." "Nick." "Now." She stared at me. Then she started crying harder. "Please, can we just talk about this?" "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "You made your choices. Now live with them." She left the kitchen. I heard her in the bedroom, opening drawers, sobbing. 20 minutes later, she came out with a bag, mascara running down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I didn't respond. She left. I heard her car start. Heard her drive away. Then I sat down at the kitchen table and just breathed in the silence. I called Travis. He answered on the first ring. "What happened?" I told him everything. The pregnancy, the confession, throwing her out. "Jesus," Travis said. "You okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be." "What are you going to do about Brenner?" "I don't know yet," I said, "but something." Travis was quiet for a moment. "Nick, be careful. Guys like that, they have lawyers and money and connections." I know. So what's the play? I'm working on it, I said. But I'm done being walked over. I'm done being the sad guy everyone pities. Good, Travis said. Let me know how I can help. We hung up. I sat there in my empty apartment and thought. Ashley was gone, but Lewis was still out there, still walking around town with his perfect smile and his Lexus and his billboard face, still thinking he could take whatever he wanted without consequences. That needed to change. 2 days later, on a Saturday evening, I intercepted Lewis in the parking lot outside Brenner Realty. It was just after 6. The office was closing. Most of the cars were gone. Lewis came out alone, scrolling through his phone, smiling at something on the screen. Lewis, I said. He actually jumped, and spun around. Nick, hey, what are you doing here? I stepped closer. Not aggressive, just present, solid. We need to talk. About what? But he knew. I could see it in his eyes. About Ashley. His face went carefully blank. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. He tried to smile, that realtor smile, all teeth and confidence. Look, man, I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding here. Ashley and I were just... I grabbed the lapel of his suit jacket. Not hard, just enough to stop him from walking away. I know exactly who you are. I know what you've been doing. And I know you think I'm harmless. For the first time, real fear flickered across his face. Let go of me. You're right, I said quietly. I am harmless. I'm just a mechanic. I fix cars. I mind my own business. But that doesn't mean I'm powerless. That doesn't mean I'm going to stand here and let you take what's mine and smile about it. I let go, stepped back. Lewis stumbled slightly, caught himself. You need help, man, he said, but his voice shook. Serious help. Probably, I agreed. But that's not your problem anymore, is it? I turned and walked away. Behind me, I heard him say, You're crazy, you know that? I didn't turn around, just kept walking. Over the next week, I followed Lewis. Not every day, not obviously, just enough to learn his patterns. Morning coffee at Dockside Brew at 7:30, lunch at Harbor Grill around noon, property showings in the afternoon, evenings at Harborview Suites, sometimes with Ashley, sometimes alone. He noticed me on Wednesday. I was standing across the street from the coffee shop, just standing there with my hands in my pockets, watching. He came out with his cup, saw me, and his whole body went rigid. He walked quickly to his Lexus. I didn't follow, just watched him drive away. Thursday, he saw me again, outside Harbor Grill. He came out after lunch, and there I was, leaning against a lamppost. This time he crossed the street, angry. Are you following me? He demanded. No, I said. I'm just here. This is harassment. I could call the authorities right now. Is it? I asked calmly. I'm standing on a public sidewalk. Is that illegal? Stay away from me, he said, pointing a finger in my face. Or what? I asked. He didn't have an answer, just turned and walked away fast, looking over his shoulder twice. That night, Ashley called me. I let it go to voicemail. She called again. I picked up. What? I said. Nick, this has to stop. Whatever you're doing, it has to stop. I'm not doing anything. Lewis called me. He said you're stalking him, that you're following him around town, that you grabbed him in a parking lot. I'm not stalking anyone, I said. I live in this town, too. So does he. Sometimes we're in the same places. You're scaring him. Good, I said. He should be scared. He took something from me. He should understand what that feels like. Nick, please, I know you're angry. I know I hurt you, but this isn't you. This isn't who you are. You're right, I said. This isn't who I was. But that person let you delete his daughter's voice, let you cheat on him for 3 months, let you lie and manipulate and use him. That person is gone. This is who I am now. She was crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. No, you're not, I said. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. I hung up, turned off my phone, sat in the dark apartment, and felt absolutely nothing. The next day, I found Lewis's Lexus parked outside a property showing on Elm Street. It was a small commercial building, potential office space. Through the window, I could see him showing 2 clients around, pointing at exposed brick, gesturing broadly. I walked over to his car, looked around. The street was empty. I crouched by the rear tire, pulled out the valve core tool I'd brought from the garage, and unscrewed the valve cap. Pressed the tool against the valve core and twisted. Air hissed out quietly, but steadily. I replaced the cap and walked away. 15 minutes later, I was parked down the street in my truck when Lewis and his clients came out. They walked to his car, One of them pointed. "Hey, your tire's flat." Lewis stared at the completely deflated rear tire. "What? How did—" The other client laughed. "Guess you're not going anywhere fast." Lewis's face turned red. He pulled out his phone, called a tow service, tried to smile at his clients while they stood there awkwardly. Eventually, they left in their own car. I saw one of them laughing as they drove past. Lewis stood alone by his car, waiting for the tow truck, and I felt the first real satisfaction I'd felt in months. That night, I checked Harborview Suites again. Ashley's car was there. So was Lewis's, once the tow truck dropped him off. I sat in my truck and watched until 2 a.m. They came out together, but something was different. They stood by her car arguing. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language. He touched her arm. She pulled away sharply. He said something harsh, gestured angrily. She shook her head. He walked to his car alone. She got in hers and just sat there for a long moment before starting the engine. They were falling apart. The pressure was working. I met Travis the next morning at Dockside Brew. "You're playing a dangerous game," he said, stirring sugar into his coffee. "I know." "You sure you want to keep going?" "Yes." "Why? What's the end game here?" I looked at him. He took something sacred and treated it like it was nothing, like it didn't matter, like Emma didn't matter, like I didn't matter. And Ashley did the same thing. They both looked at me and saw someone they could walk over, someone too sad, too broken, too weak to fight back. And now? Now I want them to understand they were wrong. Travis nodded slowly. "Okay, then let's make it matter. But we do this wisely. No force. Nothing unlawful. Nothing that lands you behind bars." "Agreed." "So what's the plan?" I told him. He listened carefully, asked questions, poked holes. We refined it. Made it cleaner, made it devastating. "He took what was sacred to me," I said finally. "I'm going to take what he thinks is untouchable. His pride, his reputation, his sense of control." Travis raised his coffee cup. "To clarity." I didn't toast, just nodded. 3 days later, I put the plan in motion. The warehouse was one of Lewis's listings. I'd found it on the Brenner Realty website. Prime industrial space, waterfront location, available immediately. It was on the edge of the docks, an old fish processing plant that hadn't been used in a decade. Metal walls, concrete floors, rusted equipment, the kind of place nobody visited after dark. I sent Ashley a text from a burner phone. "Need to talk. Private. Meet me at the warehouse on Dock Street. 10 p.m. Come alone. L." She'd think it was from Lewis. His number wasn't in her phone under his real name anyway. Just L. Then I sent Lewis a text from a different burner. "We need to talk about Nick. He knows everything. Meet me at the warehouse listing tonight, 10 p.m. A." Then I drove to the warehouse and waited. It was 9:30 when I arrived. The fog was rolling in thick from the harbor, swallowing the streetlights. I could hear foghorns in the distance, the water lapping against the pilings. The warehouse door was unlocked, just like the listing said. Easy access for viewing. I went inside and found a spot in the shadows near the back, behind a stack of old pallets. The space was massive, 40-foot ceilings, metal catwalks running along the walls, shipping containers scattered across the floor, everything covered in rust and salt corrosion and years of neglect. I waited. At 5 minutes to 10, I heard a car pull up outside, a door closing, footsteps. Ashley came through the side entrance, looking around nervously. She was wearing jeans and a jacket, hair pulled back. She looked scared. "Lewis?" she called out. Her voice echoed. "Are you here?" She walked toward the center of the warehouse, pulling out her phone for light. 3 minutes later, another car, another door. Lewis came in through the main entrance, also looking around. "Ashley?" he called. "Where are you?" They saw each other at the same moment. Stopped, stared. "What are you doing here?" Ashley asked. "You texted me," Lewis said. "Said we needed to talk about Nick." "I didn't text you anything," Ashley said. "You texted me." They both pulled out their phones, compared messages, looked up at each other with dawning realization. "He set us up," Lewis said. "Nick," Ashley whispered. I stepped out of the shadows. "Good evening, lovebirds." They both spun toward me. Ashley gasped. Lewis's face drained of color. "Nick," Ashley said, "what are you doing here?" "I could ask you the same thing," I said, walking slowly toward them. "But I already know the answer. You're here because I told you to be, and you came, both of you, like trained dogs." Lewis stepped forward, trying to assert control. "You need to leave, right now." "Or what?" I asked. "Or I'll call the authorities," he said, pulling out his phone. "Go ahead," I said. Tell them you're in an abandoned warehouse with another man's girlfriend at 10 o'clock at night. I'm sure that'll go great for your reputation. Local realtor Louis Brenner, your key to the bay, caught in secret meeting with pregnant mistress. I bet that'd look fantastic on a billboard. Louis's jaw clenched. He looked at Ashley, then back at me. What do you want? I want you to understand something, I said, both of you. You thought I was weak, you thought I was broken, you thought I was someone you could use and discard, and I'd just take it, that I'd just disappear quietly into my grief. Nick, please, Ashley said. Can we just talk about this like adults? We're done talking, I said. Talking is what got us here. You talked about needing space while having an affair. You talked about helping me heal while deleting my daughter's voice. You talked about building a future while destroying the only past I had left. I said I was sorry, she whispered. No, you said you were confused. There's a difference. Louis moved closer to Ashley protectively. This is insane. You're insane. Maybe, I said, but I'm the one who got both of you here. In the dark, in the fog, in the middle of nowhere. So who's really in control? Louis's hand went to Ashley's shoulder. We're leaving. No, I said. You're not. Louis grabbed my shoulder then, fingers digging in. Get out of our way. That was his mistake. I didn't move, just looked at his hand on my shoulder, then at his face, his eyes, saw the fear underneath the bravado. Take your hand off me, I said quietly. He squeezed harder. Move. I grabbed his wrist, twisted it outward sharply, pushed him backward. He stumbled, caught himself, stared at me in shock. I'd never been physical before, never raised my voice, never pushed back. Run, I said. What? Run, I repeated, or stay and deal with this. Your choice. Louis looked at Ashley, at me, at the dark warehouse around us. Then he ran. I followed, not fast, not aggressive, just steady. My boots echoed on the concrete. His dress shoes slapped frantically against the floor. He was running toward the far end of the warehouse where the catwalks were, probably thinking he could get to another exit. Nick, stop, Ashley screamed behind me. Please? I ignored her, focused on Louis ahead of me. He reached the metal stairs leading up to the catwalks and started climbing. The stairs rang out like bells with each step. I took my time, followed at a walk. He reached the upper level and ran along the catwalk. It swayed slightly under his weight, old metal groaning. He looked back, saw me coming up the stairs, panicked and ran faster. The catwalk formed a U-shape around the interior of the warehouse, connecting to several platforms that had once held equipment. Louis was heading for the far platform, probably hoping to find another staircase down. I reached the catwalk and followed, not running, just walking steadily. The metal grating clanged under my boots. Louis kept looking back, kept running, and I could hear him breathing hard, gasping. He reached the platform at the end, a complete stop, just a railing overlooking the warehouse floor 20 feet below. He spun around, trapped, his back pressed against the railing. I stopped 10 feet away. You done running? I asked. He was breathing hard, trying to look brave, but failing. Stay back. Why? Because He didn't finish. Didn't know what he'd do. I pulled out my phone slowly, opened the recording app, pressed play. Emma's voice filled the warehouse, echoing off the metal walls and high ceiling. I love you, Daddy. Louis's face changed. The color drained away. He finally understood. That's my daughter, I said quietly. She passed 3 years ago. She was 4, and the only thing I had left of her was that voice. 7 seconds. That's it. 7 seconds to remember how she sounded when she was sleepy and happy and safe. I didn't know, Louis said. Your girlfriend erased it, I went on. She decided it was inconvenient, that it was keeping me trapped in the past, so she deleted it because she wanted all of my attention, because she was jealous of a child who's no longer here. Nick, I'm sorry. And you, I said, taking a step forward. You took her because you could, because you saw someone weak and broken and you thought, why not? Easy target, sad mechanic who'll never fight back. Louis pressed back against the railing. Please. You're not scared enough yet, I said. I walked forward fast. Louis tried to move sideways, but I was faster. I reached out and gave him a hard shoulder check, not punching, just a solid impact to his chest. He lost his balance, fell backward, landed hard on the metal deck with a loud clang. He slid backward, his back hitting the lower rail. He wasn't hurt, just shocked, humiliated, lying there staring up at me like he'd just seen something he couldn't comprehend. I reached down and grabbed his phone from his pocket. He didn't resist, just lay there breathing hard. I walked to the edge of the platform and held the phone over the railing, 20 feet to concrete below. "No," Lewis said, scrambling to his knees. "Don't, please." "Why not?" "That's my whole life on there, my contacts, my clients, everything." "Exactly," I said. I dropped it. The phone fell in slow motion, spinning, screen glowing. It hit the concrete with a sharp crack. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of glass. The casing split. The light went out. Lewis made a sound like something had broken inside him too. A small, wounded gasp. I turned back to him. He was still on his knees, staring down at the broken phone. "That's for touching a life you never had the right to enter," I said. I walked past him, down the catwalk, down the stairs. Ashley was standing at the bottom, tears streaming down her face. "Nick," she said, "please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I stopped in front of her. "You wanted me to move on. Congratulations." "I have?" "Where does that leave us?" she asked. "There is no us," I said. "There hasn't been for months. You just didn't bother to tell me." I walked toward the exit. Behind me, I heard Lewis stumbling down the stairs, cursing. Heard Ashley crying. Heard their voices calling my name. I pushed through the door into the fog and cold and didn't look back. Got in my truck, started the engine. Drove away down empty streets, slick with rain and mist. My phone rang. Ashley. I declined the call. Lewis. Declined. Ashley again. I turned the phone off. At a red light, I pulled up the cloud storage app one more time, found Emma's recording, pressed play. "I love you, Daddy." I closed my eyes, listened to her voice, let it fill the truck cab, let it fill everything. Then I drove home through the fog, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't feel powerless anymore.